This wasn't just a brief lapse in judgment or a fleeting moment of weakness. It was a fully operational parallel life hidden in plain sight within one of the most scrutinized households in the world. The story of Arnold Schwarzenegger, his housekeeper Mildred Baena, and their secret son Joseph is often remembered as a tabloid punchline, but when you lay out the timeline, the financial trails, and the specific mechanisms used to keep this quiet for over a decade, it reveals a level of deception that is almost cinematic in its complexity. We are talking about a cover-up that survived gubernatorial campaigns, massive movie premieres, and the relentless gaze of the global press, only to unravel because of a single, undeniable genetic detail that no amount of money could suppress. The common belief is that this was a sudden explosion of drama that destroyed a marriage overnight. The reality, however, is a 14-year slow burn where silence was purchased, routines were weaponized, and two children from two different worlds were raised mere miles apart, sharing a father who was playing the role of a lifetime. We are going to answer the three questions that turn this from a gossip story into a case study of power and secrecy. First, how exactly did the timeline of the births overlap so perfectly that it seems impossible to have been missed? Second, what were the specific mechanics and financial incentives that kept Mildred Baena in that house long after the truth should have been obvious? And third, how did the eventual confession actually happen, and what was the true financial cost of the fallout when the dust finally settled? To understand the magnitude of this deception, we have to go back to the summer of 1996. According to reports from the Los Angeles Times breaking the story years later, this was the window where the timeline fractured. Arnold Schwarzenegger was away filming Batman and Robin, and his wife, Maria Shriver, a member of the Kennedy dynasty, was pregnant with their fourth child, Christopher. But simultaneously, in the same ecosystem, the family's longtime housekeeper, Mildred Baena, was also pregnant. The official narrative for years was that Mildred's husband, Rogelio, was the father. This assumption was the cornerstone of the entire cover-up. It allowed Mildred to continue working, to continue living in the orbit of the Schwarzenegger family, and to carry the child to term without raising a single red flag. But the receipts regarding the births themselves paint the most shocking picture of all. According to birth records obtained by TMZ and other outlets during the initial scandal break, the two boys, Christopher Schwarzenegger and Joseph Baena, were born less than 1 week apart in October 1997. Christopher was born on September 27th, and Joseph was born on October 2. Think about the logistics of that week. You have the most famous action star in the world and his wife welcoming a son, while the woman running their household is welcoming a son of her own, fathered by that same action star. The proximity is staggering. Arnold wasn't visiting a secret family across the country. The secret was folding laundry in the next room. For the first few years, the secret held because biology hadn't yet caught up to the lie. In his 2012 memoir, Total Recall, Schwarzenegger stated that he didn't even know Joseph was his son at the very beginning. He claimed he assumed the child was Rogelio's. It wasn't until Joseph started to grow older, around the age of 7 or 8, that the resemblance became undeniable. And this is where the story shifts from a passive secret to an active cover-up. Once the resemblance was clear, Arnold made the conscious choice not to ask the question out loud because he already knew the answer. Instead of a confrontation, a silent financial architecture was put in place. This leads us to the mechanics of the silence. Why did Mildred stay, and why did no one speak up? The answer lies in the unique power dynamic of a celebrity household. Mildred Baena wasn't just an employee, she was treated like family, having worked for them for 20 years. She attended family events. There are photos, widely circulated after the scandal broke, showing Maria Shriver smiling next to a pregnant Mildred at a family celebration. The betrayal wasn't just sexual, it was deeply relational. But as Joseph grew, the risks grew. According to reports from Radar Online and subsequent divorce filings, the financial support for Mildred began to look less like wages and more like long-term security. In 2010, the year before the scandal went public, documents show that Schwarzenegger put a down payment of $65,000 on a house for Mildred in Bakersfield, California. This purchase occurred while he was still governor of California and while he was still married to Maria Shriver. The timing here was critical. He was wrapping up his political term, a period where scrutiny is at its highest.
If this story had broken during his governorship, the political fallout would have been nuclear. The secrecy wasn't just protecting a marriage, it was protecting a political administration. The atmosphere inside the Brentwood mansion during these later years must have been suffocating. Staff members reportedly whispered about the resemblance. It is impossible to ignore the genetics. Joseph Baena looks more like Arnold Schwarzenegger than some of his legitimate children do. He has the same jawline, the same build, the same smile. It became an open secret among those who looked closely. But the Hollywood machine, the combination of NDAs, loyalty, and the fear of losing access to power kept those whispers from becoming headlines. But the most shocking aspect of this timeline is the re-engagement of Maria Shriver's intuition. We often assume the wife is the last to know, and in this case, she was, but not for lack of observation. By late 2010 and early 2011, as Arnold's term as governor ended, the resemblance was no longer something that could be politely ignored. The payout for this section of the story is the confrontation itself, which didn't happen in a courtroom or through lawyers, but in a therapy session. According to details shared by Arnold in his memoir and confirmed by Maria's camp through various press leaks, Maria Shriver waited until the day after Arnold left the governor's office to confirm her suspicions. She didn't confront Arnold directly at first. She went to the source. She asked Mildred. In a confrontation that shattered the two-decade dynamic, Maria asked Mildred point-blank if Joseph was Arnold's. Mildred broke down and confessed. This moment is crucial because it highlights that the cover-up was protected by the status of the office he held. Once the political shield was down, the truth was accessible. The next day, during a marriage counseling session, the therapist turned to Arnold and said that Maria wanted to know if he was the father of Joseph. Arnold admitted it. He wrote in his book that he told her it was true. The defense of "I didn't know" or "it was complicated" evaporated instantly. The reality of the 14-year lie was now on the table. Now we have to look at the financial and reputational fallout, which answers our third question. What was the cost of this cover-up? The immediate impact was a dissolution of a marriage that was considered American royalty. The Shriver-Schwarzenegger union was a merger of Hollywood muscle and Kennedy political legacy. The divorce took 10 years to finalize. It wasn't officially settled until 2021. The reason for this decade-long delay was largely financial. The estate was estimated to be worth over $400 million. Without a prenup, under California law, earnings during the marriage are generally community property, meaning a 50-50 split. While the exact settlement details remain sealed, legal experts cited by People magazine and TMZ estimate that Maria Shriver walked away with roughly half of that fortune, close to $200 million. That is one of the most expensive secrets in Hollywood history. But the payout goes beyond just the divorce settlement. We also have to look at how Arnold handled Joseph financially and publicly after the reveal. This is where the story takes a turn from a standard scandal to something more complex. Unlike many celebrity secret baby stories, where the father fights paternity tests and hides from the child, Arnold pivoted to full financial support. He bought Mildred the 4-bedroom house in Bakersfield. He took on the financial responsibility for Joseph's education, paying for his college tuition at Pepperdine University. And perhaps most surprisingly, the relationship shifted from a shameful secret to a public acknowledgement. Joseph Baena has since become a public figure in his own right, pursuing bodybuilding and acting, often recreating his father's iconic poses. The irony is palpable. The secret son is the one following most closely in the father's footsteps. However, the integration is not complete. While Arnold has a relationship with Joseph, reports from Page 6 and social media observation note that Joseph is rarely, if ever, seen with his other 4 children. The cover-up may be over, but the fracture in the family dynamic appears permanent. There is also the matter of the PR handling. When the story broke in May 2011, it was a media firestorm. The Los Angeles Times broke the story, and Arnold issued a statement apologizing to Maria, his children, and his family. But notice what happened next. He didn't hide, he didn't disappear, he wrote a book. He went on 60 Minutes. He controlled the narrative by owning the mistake. In a masterclass of crisis management, he framed himself as the flawed protagonist who made a massive mistake but was taking responsibility. This strategy allowed his career to survive. He returned to the Terminator franchise. He continued to be a box office draw. In many ways, the Hollywood cover-up shifted from hiding the child to managing the image of the father. Let's re-examine the mechanism of the baptism. which is a detail that often gets overlooked but serves as a perfect symbol of the deception. Reports indicate that Maria Shriver was not just aware of Joseph's existence, she was present in his life. There are accounts that she even attended the baptism or early birthday parties, bringing gifts for the housekeeper's son, completely unaware that she was buying gifts for her husband's child. The psychological toll of that realization, looking back at photos, memories, and interactions, and realizing the entire context was a lie, is the true emotional cost here. It recontextualizes 14 years of a life.
And what about Mildred, the woman at the center of the storm? Her life changed irrevocably. She went from a trusted employee in a private home to a global tabloid headline. The media hunted her down in Bakersfield. The quiet life bought with the silence was traded for public scrutiny. Yet she has maintained a relatively low profile since the explosion of news, protected largely by the financial setup Arnold provided. It serves as a reminder that in Hollywood, money doesn't just buy silence, it buys the ability to disappear when the noise gets too loud. The timeline also reveals the near misses. There were moments where the secret almost came out. During his run for governor in 2003, Arnold faced allegations of misconduct from various women, dubbed Gropegate. The media was digging through every closet looking for skeletons. It is a testament to the loyalty of his inner circle and the compartmentalization of his life that the existence of Joseph, who was 5 years old at the time and living nearby, was not discovered then. If it had been, the political history of California would look very different. It proves that the Hollywood cover-up isn't just one person, it's a system of people who benefit from the star remaining a star. We also have to consider the receipts of resemblance. In the era of social media, hiding a child who looks exactly like a famous parent is impossible. The scandal broke in 2011, right as social media was becoming ubiquitous. If Joseph had been born 10 years later, this secret wouldn't have lasted 14 months, let alone 14 years. The cover-up relied on a pre-digital era of privacy that simply does not exist anymore. This story marks the end of an era where a celebrity of that magnitude could maintain a shadow family without the internet connecting the dots. The fallout continues to ripple today. Joseph Baena does not use the Schwarzenegger last name. In interviews, he has stated he wants to build his own legacy, but the prefix Arnold Schwarzenegger's son follows him everywhere. The receipt here isn't a document, it's his face. It is the ultimate proof that the truth eventually surfaces. So we have answered the 3 questions. The timeline was a literal overlap of pregnancies, a biological coincidence that defies odds. The mechanism of the cover-up was a mix of assumption, relying on the belief that the husband was the father, and financial integration that kept the housekeeper close but silent. And the payout was a $200 million divorce and a permanent split in the family tree. What this story ultimately proves is that the most effective cover-ups aren't the ones involving complex schemes and hush money paid to strangers. They are the ones hidden in the mundane routine of daily life. Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't hide his son in a remote castle. He hid him in the guest house, in the kitchen, and at the family baptism. He relied on the fact that the truth was too audacious for anyone to believe. It challenges the way we look at celebrity narratives. We see the red carpets and the magazine covers, but we rarely see the parallel lives running quietly in the background. The next time you see a perfect Hollywood family, remember that the camera only captures the frame it is pointed at. For more deep dives into the machinery of celebrity scandals and the specific legal and PR playbooks used to manage them, you need to be watching the Fresh Celebrity Tea playlist. We break down the conservatorships, the NDAs, and the sudden divorces that don't make sense until you see the receipts. Click the playlist on your screen now to see the truth behind the headlines.